Hello and welcome back to TST. If you're new to the channel, tap on the subscription button and press the notification bell so you can receive news and updates that you can rely on daily. Due to a temporary lockdown on pretty much everything for the emergency situation, we're currently unable to report news from our studio, and instead, we're reporting the channel remotely from home. Well, stay tuned and keep watching. Plot against the president author says Schiff won't stop weaponizing intelligence absent DOJ indictments. Information from the intelligence community, leaked to the media by members of House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff's staff, have turned spy agencies into a political weapon against President Trump, according to a conservative investigative journalist. The only way to stop this cycle, which stretches back to the Russia collusion controversy, is for there to be indictments, said Lee Smith, the author of The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history. He expressed confidence in Attorney General William Barr and U.S. Attorney John Durham, who is conducting a review of the Russia investigation, but told radio host Larry O'Connor last week the reality is Schiff and the gang are always 2 steps ahead of the rest. It's gonna keep happening. It's gonna keep going on, Smith said on the Examining Politics podcast on Thursday. That's what I said about impeachment. I very much respect the Attorney General. I respect the man who's supposed to be investigating this, John Durham. But the reality is that they're 2 steps ahead. While there are no indictments, while there are no arrests, they're gonna continue doing this. Pointing to another intelligence conflict, O'Connor suggested that Schiff has been helping to stir up, quote-unquote, ad hominem attacks against Director of National Intelligence Richard Grenell, who was overseeing a major shakeup on the intelligence community. Grenell, who concurrently serves as the U.S. ambassador to Germany, has faced opposition from Democrats who claim he was picked for the spy chief role because of his loyalty to Trump. But his office has vociferously denied instigating a purge in that effort. Lee said Schiff and his staff have been perpetuating the same sick operations since the earliest days of the Trump administration, ensnaring people such as former White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. They both claimed reporting by Washington Post columnist David Ignatius has often been informed by such leaks, sometimes containing classified information. To this day, with the California Democrats' push for a bipartisan commission with subpoena power to investigate the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic, Lee claimed the congressman is once again out to disturb the operations of the government.
Right now is Lee Smith, old friend, great writer, investigative journalist. His book is The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history. And Lee, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but let's start with Devin Nunes. Let's talk about that scandal, because we learned a hell of a lot more about the FISA abuse at the FBI. Is it possible to say this is quite possibly the biggest scandal in American history, certainly in the last 100 years?
Yes. I mean, I absolutely believe that's the case. You caught me pausing there for a second because I'm looking at now at the utter corruption of the American elite and their involvement with the Communist Party of China.
Yeah.
So that's just been on my mind lately, and that's a pretty big scandal as well. But absolutely, what U.S. law enforcement authority did to American citizens, right? We're starting to see the actual depths of the depravity. You'll notice that when this story came out earlier in the week, as should have been anticipated, all of the sort of bureaucratic jock sniffers around Washington at places like at places like Lawfare, how they were defending it, and this was to be expected. They were going to say things, see, all these right-wing conspiracy theorists, they thought that the FBI was targeting Trump. In fact, it's just a problem the FBI has generally. Look, the Inspector General found on every warrant there were problems. So what's the takeaway here? Oh, yeah, the takeaway is it's not just a presidential campaign. As it turns out, the FBI has been screwing around with the lives of American citizens for who knows how long. Yeah. And that's an important question we're going to need to get to the bottom of. When did this start? Did this start during the Patriot Act years, post 9/11? Did this start when the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act was passed in 1978? Did it start under Robert Mueller? Did it start under James Comey?
Right.
It's terrible.
It certainly sheds light on the culture at the FBA that it didn't even seem to, cause a moment of pause for them to pull warrants like this on people working on the Trump campaign because it was business as usual. Where's James Comey and his smug Twitter account these days? And where are challenges to him, to Andrew McCabe? And where is Christopher Wray right now, the person who's supposed to be leading this department?
Well, I have to say that as we look at it now, it is the responsibility of all Americans, right? We can't put this on the FBI entirely, and by that I mean one thing. I mean the idea that the United States would provide an agency with secret powers and expect those powers to be used responsibly all the time was preposterous. So it is now the responsibility of our elected officials, from the executive branch to the legislative branch, to reconcile our fantasies about giving this kind of power to an intelligence service and what we do about it, how we preserve the privacy of Americans. It's not just anymore about the privacy of American citizens, right? They were using these in law enforcement investigations, right? I mean, who knows how many innocent people, like the entire Trump campaign, were rolled up with what the FBI has been doing for, I believe that the earliest warrant they looked at was 2014. So that's when Comey takes over the FBI.
Yep.
Who knows how long it goes before that?
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of the other innocent parties on the Trump campaign and the Trump administration, Sidney Powell, the attorney for General Mike Flynn, made a startling revelation today. I mean, this has been talked about quite a bit, but she confirmed it, said that before his arrest, Mike Flynn was planning on a full audit of the intelligence agencies, draining the swamp, as it were.
Right.
And that sort of speaks to motive.
Right. That's a very important thing. I write about that actually in my book, that this was one of the reasons that that our intelligence services, in particular, it's becoming increasingly clear the CIA had a very significant role in this, or the people who were under the then director, John Brennan, had a very significant role in this. And they wanted to take Flynn off the board because both Flynn and the president he served were very serious about draining the swamp, and the intelligence services were quite concerned. And now we have more evidence of why they were concerned, because the utter corruption and disregard for law and the arrogance of these people led them to believe they were that they were not above the law, that they were the law.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
That is the issue. Absolutely the issue. Lee Smith is our guest, investigative journalist. His book is The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history. And, I smiled broadly when I read yesterday in the Washington Post under the byline David Ignatius that Adam Schiff was planning an investigation of the Trump administration's response to coronavirus. And he had all of these leaks seemingly from the Schiff office. Where have I read this script before, Lee Smith?
Right. I mean, this is how depraved they are. They keep running the same sick operation. You mentioned General Flynn. I mean, it was David Ignatius who was part of the initial operation targeting General Flynn in January of 2017, when someone leaked the substance of a classified transcript to Mr. Ignatius. Now, whoever leaked that committed a very serious offense. But here's David Ignatius continuing to run the same kind of operation. And of course, here's Adam Schiff, one of the most repugnant characters in American history. He lies repeatedly on television for 3 years about Russia collusion. He rolls that into an impeachment inquiry against Trump. And now, what an astonishing surprise. He's going to use an episode when Americans across the country are suffering a very bad moment for the entire country, and he's going to turn this again into an operation to target President Trump and to try to, to again disturb the operations of the government with nonsense. Yeah, it's disgraceful, these people.
It is.
But you know what? It's going to keep happening. It's going to keep going on. This is what I said about impeachment. I very much respect the Attorney General. I respect the man who's supposed to be investigating this, John Durham. But the reality is that they're 2 steps ahead. While there are no indictments, while there are no arrests, they're going to continue doing this.
We're speaking with Lee Smith. One other question on this before we let you go, and that has to do with this Ignatius column, Lee, because it absolutely fits the mold. It's framed within the context of, this is going to be nonpartisan and the American people deserve to know so we can improve and do better. But then for over half of the article, it's ad hominem attacks, unfounded innuendo against Ambassador Richard Grenell, the interim director of national intelligence. This is using the media and using your position, I'm assuming this all came from Schiff, as the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, for personal political attacks against your opponents. This is not what the Intel Committee has ever really been. He has warped this thing into a political weapon.
Right. This is what Adam Schiff has done. He's turned it into a political weapon. The one upside is we saw after the long period of the Russia collusion nonsense, when this was rolled into impeachment, House Republicans understood what Adam Schiff was about. And a lot of this is because of the careful work of Devin Nunes and his team, including Kash Patel, who was his lead investigator, and he's now working for Mr. Grenell at DNI. It was Nunes who went through this and showed people what was going on. So now, when an article like this comes out with David Ignatius and it's about Adam Schiff, no one on the right, no one in the Republican Party believes that there is any integrity to an investigation like this to be proposed by anyone from Adam Schiff's staff. It's preposterous.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is why elections are important. They have consequences, not least of which who ends up being the chairman of these committees. Lee Smith, we got to leave it there. Always good to talk to you, my friend.
Larry, thanks very much.
Share your thoughts and responses in the comments down below. If you've liked this report, let us know by tapping that like button down below, share the news among friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news and updates on TST. I'm David Ravine, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay home, stay healthy, and stay safe.